Yes, guys, I'm Si. Welcome to Cardiff City World. A little video this evening, today, whatever, to basically have a look at Cardiff City's managerial shortlist. So basically, I've based these 5 managers on the information that I'm kind of hearing, what I'm reading, and a bit of a mixture. So I know, of course, there's other options, there's other managers, and I'm not necessarily saying that these managers on this list are the people that I would go for. These are just what I think as we stand, sort of 48 hours or so after Errol Bullett's left the club. Most likely probably 5, but certainly not the only options. I also wouldn't necessarily go with what the bookies are saying. I trust the people who I've been speaking to over the last couple of days, and they would certainly know at least, a bit of the plan, shall we say. So let's talk about it. As always, I'm really interested to hear what you guys think about each candidate. I'm really interested to hear if you guys think we should go in a different direction, a different person. I also have a 6th option, which I'm doing a separate video, which will be out tomorrow morning. Yeah, so the one which will drop tomorrow is I'm not sure if it's my full pick, like definitely who I'd go for, but it's certainly it's one which I think would be a very progressive pick, and I think it would be a very exciting pick for the new manager. And personally, that's the way I'm leaning. Cardiff City is so far behind in every asset of what we do, from off the pitch, on the pitch, media, football structure, everything. It's just we're 5-10 years behind the time all the time, and it would be nice if we could go in a very progressive way and pick a manager who's really going to embrace an attacking style and young players and things like that. But that's a separate video which will be out tomorrow morning, probably a slightly shorter video. But for today, we talk the Cardiff City managerial shortlist. 5 managers Cardiff City may consider for the job. First one is Alexanderson, current Corvick manager. And I see a lot of people kind of, big groan, and I understand it. Look, let's be honest, okay? Let's call it what it is. If Cardiff City go for Freyr Alexanderson, it's the cheap option, the controllable option, the kind of for lack of a better term, the kind of yes man that maybe Vincent Tan and co would like. But what you have to remember is when Kenneth Cho and Vincent Tan have made the selection themselves previously, we have ended up with your Russell Slades, your Paul Trollops, the cheap, the bad, 2 of the worst managers that we've ever had, in my opinion. And look, it's not my choice. It's not who I would go for. But let's have a look at him, Freyr Alexanderson, because in his field and in his where he's been and in his career, he's been fairly successful. Not having a great time of it this season so far, but that can change. Freyr Alexanderson came into Lyngby Ball Club in June 2021. He became the new manager of the Danish First Division side. With Frey as the manager, they finished runner-up that season, earning the club a promotion to the top level in the Danish Football League, the Superligaen, in 22-23. Alexanderson's team were the last in the table with only 1 win at the winter break when they were in that top league. Kind of struggled a little bit, but they did complete, easy for me to say, a comeback and avoided relegation in the last game of the season against their fellow relegation candidates, AC Horsens. On January the 24th, 2024, it was announced that Alexanderson would become the new coach at Corvick, KV Corvick, which is obviously part owned by Vincent Tan, or is owned by Vincent Tan. He was tasked with avoiding relegation. Very strange league, the Belgian league, because there's some really good footballing teams in there. They play some good stuff. And I watched a few of Isaac Davis's games for them last year. I thought it's not the worst league. It's not. I'm not sure where it compares to the championships in terms of quality, but more so in terms of intensity. I think there's a big kind of drop off, which is a worry. And look, even Errol Bullet coming over from Turkey, his style of football just didn't click and coincide and correlate over to the English system, and certainly not the Championship. That possession-based sort of slow build-up, I don't think that works unless you've got certain assets in the team, really quick wingers, and a really mobile striker with creative players. And we didn't have all those assets, and that's down to the manager. He didn't. We had the choice to bring in players in the summer. If he knew he wasn't going to use the young players for the width, and he knew that he wasn't going to use the mobile striker that we have in a Robinson or a Reindorf, then his system was never going to work, because you need those assets to be able to play a slow build-up and then play through a press and hit teams on the break. But anyway, back to Freyr Alexanderson. He did succeed in his mission and kept up Corvik. They gained enough points to avoid direct relegation, with then winning the 2 deciding playoff matches to stay in the Belgian top tier. Generally speaking, in terms of his club's career as a manager, at senior level, he's managed 112 games, 39 wins, 30 draws, 43 losses, with a win percentage around 34.82%. Look, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that this is anything other than the kind of cheap, controllable choice. It is, but I will caveat that with, as I've said many, many times, sometimes it is just the right person at the right job, the right environment, the right fan base, the right city. Everything just comes together and it works for that person. Is that going to happen for Freyr Alexanderson? I couldn't tell you, but I tell you one thing: it would be a massive, massive gamble from Cardiff City and Vincent Tan. And I don't think Vincent Tan is a stupid man. I don't think Cardiff City have got one point in after 6 games, scored 1 goal, but there's also 30 plus games to go in this season, 35 plus games to go in this season. It's a long way to go. If Cardiff City get the right manager in now, Cardiff City can still make the playoffs. If they get it wrong, they could be cut adrift by January, and we could be in real trouble there. And really, not just fighting a relegation battle, but it could become, relegated before the season's finished, and all sorts of issues. So it's important that the club get it right. I know someone who I trust. I trust their viewpoint and their football knowledge, their information, very, very, very much so. I was speaking to him last night, and he said he thinks if they go for Freyr Alexanderson, he'll be gone by January, and they'll end up having to paying big money for a David Moyes or a Sam Allardyce to try and save them from relegation. It is my opinion they don't need to do that. There is managers available now who could come in, play an attacking style of football, which would get the fans invested, work with the squad that we already have, which is good. And even if there's no money available in January and they can't bring anybody else in, maybe they can bring Simic back. Maybe they can bring Conte back. Maybe they can bring Eli King back just to strengthen the squad. Maybe you could have Tusaneda will be back. Maybe, Aaron Ramsey will be back from injury. Isaac Davis will be back from injury. So getting this managerial appointment is very, very important. So for me, it's vital that they get it right. Next up on the list, number 2, as it were. Number 2. I've gone for number 2 is Nathan Jones on this list. This, for me, I kind of divide all these managers up into different options. So there's a couple who fall under the cheap and cheerful. There's a couple who, from a footballing point of view, really work, but maybe there's a few other issues. And then there's Nathan Jones, for me, is the appointment most likely to unite the fans. Short term, long term, everything. He's a Cardiff boy. He's Cardiff born. He's a Cardiff fan. He's Welsh. He's popular. He plays a fairly decent style of football. I don't think he's like what I would call expansive, but he's a decent manager. He's very experienced. So if you look back to what I just said with regards to the Corvik manager, he's only had 112 games at senior level, and he's got a win percentage of 34.82%. Whereas Nathan Jones, who has managed 383 games, has a career win percentage of 42.3%, and has got 162 wins out of 383 in his career. He is clearly got something about him. He's a very good manager who can work with young players. He's done pretty well. And it's really an interesting one. Like, he left Brighton as first team coach in 2016, went to Luton in London, who were in League Two at the time, and became a manager. He won 11 of his first 20 odd games in charge in that 2015-16 season, got them away from relegation to a comfortable 11th place finish. Can't get my words out. I'm very tongue-tied today. But then he made wholesale changes. He released a big, huge group of players. 12 players were released from their contract that summer, brought in 8 new ones, completely revamped the squad. And then the following season, Luton spent only 1 week outside of the top 7 positions, and they obviously made the semi-final of the EFL trophy. He went on, very successful, got promoted, and so on. Went on to get promoted from League One up to the Championship also. And then in 2020, in January 20, sorry, that's skipped ahead. In January 2019, he left to go to Stoke City after the clubs agreed to compensation and stuff. During the summer window, he brought in 10 players to try and build his own squad. But Stoke made a poor start to the 2019-20 season. They only had a point from the first 6 matches. Sound familiar? And he was dismissed by November, having only won 2 of the first 14. He did say he didn't regret going to Stoke, but it never felt like the right fit for him. Like, from the outside, I remember saying at the time, it didn't feel like that was the kind of the right fit. But in regards to Luton Town, he returned there in May 2020. Again, did really well. He was almost, only 18 months away. He replaced Graham Jones. And in his first press conference, he spoke of the regret and the remorse about how he had left the club and what. So there was definitely a mixed fan reaction at that point. But he went on to guide them to safety in the Championship at 19th. They were 23rd when he came in. So, clearly is a very accomplished Championship manager. The following season, he achieved 12th place finish with 62 points. In January 2022, Jones signed a new contract with Luton, which would keep him at the club until 2027. Contracts are just not worth what they're written, because he then, following getting the EFL Championship Manager of the Year at the league's award ceremony, he moved to Southampton in November as he replaced Ralph Hasenhüttl as the Premier League club's manager. And as we say, we kind of know it didn't go well. He was the shortest serving non-caretaker manager in Southampton's history. So what we can say is, at Luton, he's done a very good job on a shoestring budget twice. But when he's gone elsewhere, hasn't really been as smooth sailing. He likes to get his own players in, yes, but he's used to working on that budget. And I'm sure, look, I'm not being disrespectful to any of those teams, but I would probably say, maybe with the exception of Southampton, coming into Cardiff City, this will be the best squad he's ever had. Now, can he work with it? Can he do it? That's another story. I'm not sure. But what I will say is, I think he has the ability to unite the fan base because of his roots, because he's a Cardiff fan. I think he can get people behind him and, really kind of bring everyone together, similar to the way Neil Warnock did. I said on the phone in the other day, Neil Warnock isn't my favourite manager. I like him I like his personality, and I like him, and I really enjoy the way he plays football. And I didn't like the way he went about it with the young players, kind of wrote them off, never gave them a chance. That's not what I think Cardiff should be about. Cardiff should be building their team around the young players in the academy, because we have players now who are good enough to be in the first team. We need to be using them. I just wanted to go back actually to Freyr Alexanderson on his playing style. I missed it out. Direct style of play, really puts a lot of emphasis on the wingers and the wide areas, tries to utilise those areas of space. During his season and a half at Lyngby in the Superliga, his side averaged between sort of 45 and 47% respectively in terms of their ability to push forward and score goals, create attacks. His Lyngby sides tended to create most of their chances on the counter-attack, with width being the big part of how he wanted to create those chances. But that almost sounds very familiar in what Errol Bullock wanted to do without the width, maybe. I don't think Cardiff need to be playing on the counter-attack. We have a good enough side to retain the ball and play football the right way. So it's difficult. Going back to Nathan Jones, when he was at Lewin, they were a team that liked to play a high-pressing game, tried to get the ball back as high as possible up the pitch. They were quick. They were very intense teams which would press in every area of the pitch. As soon as losing possession, you'd see a lot of drills in the warm-up trying to get, if you lose, trying to get the ball back, you've got 60 seconds to get it back, and they used to implement that into the game. He would kind of use a couple of different systems with regards to marking and pressing. He would use more of a man marking system in set pieces and zonal pressing at times as well. So you can have man-to-man pressing and then the zonal pressing. But I don't think Nathan Jones wouldn't be my choice. But if Cardiff City went with him, I'd get behind him, and I don't think he's the worst choice. I actually think in many ways he's a good choice. So he's certainly up there. Nathan Jones wouldn't be my choice, but I don't think he's the worst choice. I do think he would have a uniting effect on the fans. He plays a good style of football. I really like some of the things he does, and I particularly like the pressing side of his game. He likes to win the ball high up the pitch, win it back as soon as he's lost it from his teams, and that's something which I really think Cardiff can utilise, but wouldn't be my choice, but not the worst choice. Cardiff looked at him before. He had an interview before. They did a full workup on him before. There was a lot of boxes that he ticked for the club, but ultimately it was decided that I think that he couldn't necessarily work with the owner and stuff. Now, what's changed in that time, I don't know, but he's certainly on the shortlist. I know that. Number 3, a controversial one, but we will talk about him because I've had it on good authority that he's at the very least on the shortlist. Ryan Giggs. Ryan Giggs, obviously a former Wales international, former Manchester United winger, a former Wales manager indeed. Hasn't got a great deal of experience at that managerial level. Filled in a little bit for Wales. Was really highly praised by Louis van Gaal, and Louis van Gaal actually recommended that Ryan Giggs be his replacement when he departed Manchester United. However, they gave it to Jose Mourinho. Of course, in January 2018, Ryan Giggs was appointed the Wales manager. He did struggle a little bit at first, but I think part of that was a similar struggle to what Chris Coleman had, where he tried to carry on what the manager before had done instead of implementing his own ideas and squad. And actually, when he moved on, Ryan Giggs moved some of the older players out of the squad, focused on the upcoming young talent that we had. He did a really good job, regardless of what you think about the off-the-field activities and things like this. Like, he did do a good job for Wales. Obviously qualified, and then Robert Page ended up kind of taking over. But in terms of the way he likes to play football, I think a few things stick out for me. From a football point of view, only first of all, we'll talk about some of the other stuff in a minute. From a football point of view, I think there's a lot of reasons why Ryan Giggs makes sense. He's a Welshman, born in Cardiff, obviously worked in Wales before with the Welsh FA and the Wales job. He likes to play football the right way. He likes to play an attacking style. He likes to really use young players and their energy and rawness and their legs. He's very tactically astute for someone who hasn't got a lot of managerial experience. But what he did do is he had an excellent assistant manager when he was with Wales, who's gone on to excel elsewhere as well. So it would be important to get the right coaching staff around him if he was to pick. But on the other side of things, I do think that it would be a very divisive appointment in terms of the fans. I think straight away when it was brought up in the comments yesterday on the live show, straight away there was a lot of negativity, and I understand it fully. If anyone understands it, it's me. Like I understand, I understand it, but I'm kind of stuck with it because from a football point of view, I don't think it's the worst appointment. Again, wouldn't be my choice. But I think, like Cardiff City as a club, do we need the drama, the baggage, everything that comes with that appointment? And there's already so much negativity in the fan base and stands. Do we need that more? Do we need more of a division? We've already got a division in the squad and in the club, and there's two camps, and there's this and there's that. We need to come together. We need to come together as a fan base, as a football club, as a team, as a squad, everything. It all needs to be brought together. Now, largely, I blame the club for that and their refusal to embrace the fans and the relationship with the fans. And I think this appointment might cause more hassle than is needed, I think. But then, if you go back to the football side of it, if he comes in and wins the first few games very comfortably, plays a lovely style, plays the young players, will people get on board with him? And that's what you've got to kind of weigh up as a football club. They will have to weigh up whether they can deal with the initial press coverage and the fans division and the rest of it. Is it worth it long term? Vincent Tan loves a big name, and they don't come much bigger, regardless of what you think of him. They don't come much bigger than Ryan Giggs in the football world. So it'll be interesting to see whether he is a real choice or if he's just a name that's in there. Like I think like people like Mark Hughes and a couple of others are just in there because they're in there because they're managers effectively. The next one on the list is a name that I'm particularly excited about. He's a free agent, got an exceptional reputation around the UK and the British game. Number 4 on my list is Steven Schumacher. So Steven Schumacher, again, he's only 40 years old. Got a preferred formation usually of 3-4-2-1, which is a formation which I was recently talking about. 140 games he's been a manager of. That might have changed now, but the last time I looked, 140 games, average of just under 2 points per game, 52% win rate. And I wanted to take a look at some of this. I've got a little bit of a write-up of a scout report of how his teams like to play. And there's a few little bits I'd like to pick out because I think one of the reasons why I'm quite excited by Steven Schumacher is his tactical versatility. It's not just, he's an attacking manager. It's the versatility. So when he was at Plymouth Argyle, the biggest asset their season had was how clinical they were in attack. And Schumacher's sides, they netted 51 goals in 28 games in the league. And that was like, at that point when this report was written, it was the highest in the division. Plymouth had displayed real variety in their tactics and formation. They played a 3-4-2-1, which was like their most frequent, but they also were partial to switching it up a bit. They played a 3-4 with then a number 10 and 2 strikers. They played a 4-4-2 at times. Sometimes they'd change from each one in and out of possession. They were very, very clever with it. I really like him. He likes to play through the thirds, which I actually think really suits the way, the players that Cardiff have got now. You look at Will Fish, you look at Darland, you look at Chambers, even Perry NG. They all like to play through the thirds. They don't want to just be lumping it forward. They like to play football, and it's I think the biggest problem with Arrow Bullets tactics was the speed at which they did it, and the lack of ability and movement off the ball was causing a real problem, because Arrow Bullet didn't want to lose the shape of the team, even when pushing forward. So that was obviously problematic. He also, Steven Schumacher also likes to split the centre backs. So what you see a lot these days for a goal kick, for instance, is one of the centre backs will stand or take the goal kick, and the keeper will stand on the other side. But what Steven Schumacher tends to do is the keeper will stand, take the goal kick, the centre backs will push right out, and it will leave a bit of a gap in the middle, normally then filled by the midfielder. But what this does is it splits the press from the opposition side, creating or allowing you to create overloads quickly wherever you play the ball. It's really clever. I'm a big fan of him, and if you go and speak to many people, I've spoken to a few people about Steven Schumacher. Really, really highly rated, and he's someone that, as a free agent, I think it just makes a lot of sense. In terms of his managerial experience, he had a little spell at Southport as a caretaker manager, which was not very long. He then had 2 years at Plymouth, where he was very successful. He had a year at Stoke, but he never really got going there. And I actually thought he was really harsh for him to be sacked at Stoke. He was appointed the head coach in December 2023. He was joined by his coaching staff, Mark Hughes, Peter Kavanagh, and Darren Bichette. But he was then sacked when they were 17th in the league, and he was dismissed where it was September 2024. So barely had a year. Didn't even have a year. For me, and this is just my opinion, I thought it was harsh, because I felt like Stoke were starting to come together. I also don't believe Stoke had as good a side as what Cardiff have got now in terms of their squad. So on this list, Steven Schumacher is probably my guy. I'd be excited by his appointment. And number 5, again, some people will groan, but I've tried to make this list of 5 realistic choices. And number 5 is Omar Risa. So Omar Risa, the current caretaker manager, along with Tom Ramsholt, Omar Risa came into Cardiff City in the summer with a pretty, I don't know if I say exceptional, but a very good reputation for coaching, attacking football. Predominantly, he'd worked with young players in like the under-21s, but he's done a bit. He'd worked at Watford. He coached with England in the younger age groups. He certainly he had a spell at Leyton Orient, as well. But Omar Risa is, or should I say, came in with the reputation to be an attacking coach who worked well with young players. So he came in as Arrow Bullets assistant, with that being the plan. They got rid of the previous assistant manager, Nadia Somnes. And what we've seen this year from Cardiff City's attack has been non-existent. Now, do you think, or do you blame Omar Risa for that, because he's supposed to be this attacking fitness coach? Or do you look at it and say, well, Arrow Bullets the manager, he's always going to have the final say. And then when you find out they've clashed a lot, including during the Leeds game, witnessed by myself, does that mean that he just wasn't able to implement his ideas? If he goes and has 4 or 5 games in charge and we win all of them comfortably and we play the very attacking style of football, I tell you very, very clearly, there's a good chance that Vincent's hand on the board appoint him as manager. You can just look historically at what's happened. We've done it time and time again, and there's no denying it. We did it with Mark. We did it with someone else as well. But ultimately, we have done it time and time again. So it's just one of those where you've got to accept that if he does a good job in the interim, there's at least a small chance that he'll get the job. Would he be my choice? Absolutely not. but I also don't know enough about him or haven't seen his ideas to say that. And maybe he's got big ideas for Cardiff City squad and the project. And, you know, maybe some of these players were brought in with his input in the summer before they fell out. And he can see a lineup or tactics or formation that can get the best out of these players. And we'll see that from Saturday against Hull, because all of a sudden he's able to implement it. I just don't know. But moving on, that was the 5 choices that I think are the 5 most likely choices to be the next Cardiff City manager, in my opinion. There is one more progressive choice, and this really would be the progressive one. What I will say with this one is he's got a fantastic reputation. His playing style is efficiently attacking. He's tactically astute. He's young. And it would be the most un-Cardiff-like appointment we've ever had. So what I will say is I'll drop a video on him tomorrow or maybe Thursday. But look out for that, because I wanted to do a separate video on him, because I think between him and Steven Schumacher, I think they're my choices. But I'm interested in what you guys have got to say. Let me know in the comments, and we'll be back very soon. Make sure you like, subscribe to the channel, all that good stuff. Thank you for joining me. Apologies for the tongue-tiedness of this video. I don't know what was going on. But there we go. In a bit.